We've been doing meetings wrong for 100 years. We think real work happens in synchronous meetings. We think decisions require everyone in a room at the same time. We think async communication is a compromise for remote teams. You're wrong on all three counts. Async work isn't a second-choice option. It's actually superior. Better thinking, better decisions, better output. And most companies haven't figured it out yet. The problem is that synchronous communication feels productive. You're in a meeting, people are talking, you feel like progress is happening. But the reality is, you're just talking. The thinking happened before the meeting, if it happened at all. Async work reverses that. The thinking happens in writing. The communication is permanent and asynchronous. The output is better because it's not rushed, not filtered through group dynamics, not constrained by meeting time limits. Today's guest has built entire companies this way, and what she's found will change how you think about every meeting you schedule. Daisy, welcome to Scale Up Stories.
Thank you for having me. And I want to start with a definition because I think people have vague ideas about what asynchronous work is.
What is it?
Asynchronous work is work that doesn't require real-time coordination or communication. I do my work, you do your work. We communicate via written text. You don't have to respond immediately. I don't have to wait for you. We're not constrained by the same time or the same place.
So it's just remote work, right?
No, that's a common confusion. You can be remote and synchronous. You can be in an office and asynchronous. They're orthogonal variables. Remote work means location is distributed. Async means communication is not real-time. You can have both, or either, or neither. Many companies went remote during the pandemic, but they kept the same synchronous meeting culture. They just moved the meetings to Zoom. That's remote, but not async.
Give me an example of async communication.
I write a design proposal. I post it in a shared doc. Over the next 24 hours, different people read it and leave comments. They leave their feedback without requiring a meeting. I read the feedback and iterate. I ship it. That entire cycle happens without a synchronous meeting. And the quality is higher because people had time to think, time to read carefully, time to formulate thoughtful feedback. Compare that to traditional. I schedule a design meeting, wait for everyone's calendar to align, we spend an hour in a meeting. I write it up, I send it back for feedback. That's 3 to 5 days and multiple synchronous touch points.
How is that better than a meeting?
Several ways. First, people can give feedback in their own time, not on the meeting schedule. Second, the feedback is documented. Third, I have time to consider the feedback thoughtfully instead of responding in the moment. Fourth, people can participate even if they're in different time zones or they're focused on other work. Fifth, there's a written record. Next time someone asks, "Why did we make that decision?" we can point to the doc.
What about the efficiency? Doesn't async take longer?
It can take longer wall clock time, 48 hours instead of 2 hours. But it takes less human time. 2 hours of 10 people in a meeting is 20 human hours. 2 hours of async review by those same 10 people is probably 5 human hours, because people aren't all waiting at the same time. More importantly, the quality of the decision is higher, which saves time downstream when you don't have to redo the work.
Let's dig into quality. Why is async better for decision-making?
Because it separates thinking from reacting. In a synchronous meeting, you're constantly reacting. Someone says something and you respond immediately. The fastest thinker dominates. The most confident person, not necessarily the smartest, drives the decision. In async, you have time to think. You can research before responding. You can consider counterarguments. You can write multiple drafts before publishing.
Does that actually change the decision?
Dramatically. I studied decision quality in teams that switched from synchronous to async. They made significantly better strategic decisions, not because the people got smarter, because the process was better. When you write something down, you have to be clear. You can't hide behind vague language. You have to make your logic explicit. That rigor improves thinking.
Isn't there an efficiency cost?
There is, but it's a worthwhile trade. Would you rather make a decision quickly and have it be mediocre, or make it slowly and have it be excellent? In the synchronous world, you're pressured to decide quickly because everyone's time is expensive. So you decide fast. In the async world, you decide when you have the information and clarity you need. The decision is better.
How do you prevent analysis paralysis?
You set deadlines. You say, feedback closes Friday at 5 p.m. Then decision happens. But unlike a real-time meeting where the loudest person wins, in async, the clearest thinking wins.
You keep coming back to writing. Why is that central?
Because writing forces clarity. You can't hide in writing. If you're unclear, the reader will notice. If your logic has gaps, a reader will find them. When I started requiring teams to write everything, the quality of communication improved immediately. People became more thoughtful. Emails became more substantive. Meeting requests turned into written proposals.
Does everyone like writing?
Most people initially resist it. They say, I'd rather just talk about it. But once they experience having clear thinking in writing, they prefer it because it's easier to reference later, easier to iterate on, easier to get right. The other thing is that writing is permanent. You can't accidentally forget what was decided. You can't have different people remember things differently. The written record is the source of truth.
What do you do with people who won't write?
It's a skill that can be developed. I have senior people help junior people. I have templates. I have feedback on clarity and structure. But I also have a rule. If you can't write it clearly, you probably don't understand it well enough yet. So the writing requirement is actually a thinking tool.
Do you have a writing culture, or is it forced?
It becomes a culture over time. Once the team experiences the benefits better decisions, less meetings, clearer communication, they prefer it. It's not forced. It's just how we work. Over time, people start writing better. They understand the patterns. What makes a good proposal, a good update, a good piece of feedback. Writing becomes a skill that distinguishes good operators from okay ones.
Do you have meetings at all?
Yes, but they're rare and intentional. Not calendar filler, not status updates. Real meetings only happen when synchronous communication is actually better.
When is that?
When you need real-time brainstorming and you're building on each other's ideas. When you need to have a difficult conversation where tone and body language matter. When you need to make a fast decision with incomplete information. When there's complex collaboration that needs back and forth. But those situations are much rarer than most people think. Most meetings could be an email, or a doc, or an async thread.
How do you push back on the meeting culture?
You model it. I don't take meetings unless they're essential. People notice. They start doing the same thing. You also make async communication the default. If someone schedules a meeting for something that could be async, you push back. Can you send a proposal and I'll review async? Over time, the culture shifts. People stop defaulting to meetings. They start writing things down first. They ask, is this actually necessary to discuss in real time?
What's the meeting load in a fully async company?
At my current company, the average person is in about 2 to 3 hours of meetings per week. Most companies are 15 to 20 hours per week. That's 12 to 17 hours per person per week that is now available for actual work. That's probably the biggest productivity gain from async. You're not gaining efficiency in individual tasks. You're gaining hours of focused work time because meetings aren't fragmenting people's days. With 2 to 3 hours per week, you can have stretches of time to actually think.
We talked about remote in an earlier episode. How does async enable better remote work?
Remote work without async is actually stressful. You have all the loneliness and isolation of remote, but you still have the synchronous meeting culture. So you're not in an office, you're isolated, and you still have back-to-back meetings. It's the worst of both worlds. Async remote is the sweet spot. You're isolated, yes, but you have deep focus time. You don't have the constant interruptions. You can do your best work.
Does async enable you to hire globally?
Absolutely. If you require everyone to be in a meeting at 9 a.m. PST, you can only hire people in US time zones. If you're fully async, you can hire the best person anywhere in the world. That's huge. I have team members in 8 different countries. We couldn't do that with synchronous meetings.
How does that affect team cohesion?
Different than office-based, but not worse. We have rituals, monthly all hands, async written updates, social channels, quarterly in-person gatherings. The cohesion is intentional instead of ambient, but it's strong.
How does async change the speed of decisions?
Counterintuitively, it can be faster. Because you don't have to schedule a meeting. You don't have to wait for everyone to be available. I write a proposal Friday afternoon. People read over the weekend or Monday. I get feedback Monday afternoon. I iterate Monday night. Decision is made Tuesday morning. Same or faster than scheduling a meeting and waiting for everyone to find a time.
What about tie-breaking? What if people disagree?
Written disagreement is actually better than synchronous disagreement because people have to articulate their position clearly. They can't just dismiss an idea in the moment. They have to write out why they think it's wrong. That leads to better conflict resolution. You're not in a room where the louder person wins. You're working with written arguments, which stands on its own merit. The disagreement becomes substantive instead of political. You're not worried about who said it or who's more senior. You're evaluating the actual argument.
Does this favor introverts?
Absolutely. Introverts often have better written communication than verbal, so they actually perform better in async. This is one of the hidden benefits you're not selecting for extroversion. In a synchronous culture, the extrovert has an advantage. They think fast on their feet. They're comfortable interrupting. In async, the thoughtful person has the advantage. They write clearly, they think carefully. That's a structural advantage for introverts and thoughtful people.
You mentioned that async creates a written record. Why does that matter?
Enormous benefit that most people underestimate. Every decision is documented. Why was it made? What alternatives were considered? What the thinking was? New people can read the archive and understand the company's decision history. You don't have to re-explain things. Someone joins your company and they can read why you decided on the tech stack, why you chose your pricing model, why you pivoted on a feature. They're up to speed in weeks instead of months.
Does that make it hard to change decisions?
It can, but I think that's actually a feature. You can't just change a decision on a whim if everyone can see the reasoning. You have to write down why you're changing it. That forces rigor. The other benefit is that you can review old decisions and see if they're still holding true. You can do decision archaeology. What was the reasoning here? Is it still valid?
What about outdated decisions that linger?
We have a practice of quarterly reviews of major decisions. Is this still true? Should we reconsider? That keeps the archive fresh, and psychologically, it's healthy. You're not bound by invisible assumptions. You can challenge decisions explicitly because you know the reasoning.
Do you measure anything about async versus sync?
Yes. We track meeting hours per week. We track decision latency, time from proposal to decision. We track decision quality through retrospectives. We track engagement and satisfaction. All of these favor async when implemented well.
What's the most surprising metric?
Probably employee retention. When we went async, our turnover dropped from 25% annually to 8%. People don't leave when they feel respected and autonomous. That one metric alone justifies async because the cost of hiring is so high.
Why does async improve retention?
Because it respects people's time and autonomy. It's not micromanagement friendly. It's not politics heavy. It's merit-based. Good ideas win. Hard work is visible. People feel valued. People stay at companies where they feel respected. Async respects people.
Tell us about your company. How async is it?
We're fully async by default. People can overlap if they want to, but there's no expectation of real-time availability. We have no meetings on Fridays, which forces us to pre-write decisions before Friday or decide on Monday. We have a no Slack after 6 p.m. rule. No expectation of response.
How did that start?
It started because our team was distributed and people were burning out, trying to be available across time zones. I said, let's try fully async. We expected pushback. We got none. Everyone loved it. Productivity went up. People were happier. Turnover went down. Why would we ever go back?
What's been the hardest part?
Getting people comfortable with the pace. Async decisions take longer wall clock time, even if they take less human time. Some executives struggled with that at first. Why haven't we made the decision yet? But once they experienced better decisions, they preferred it.
Do you think every company can be async?
Most knowledge work companies can be. Hardware manufacturing, maybe not. But SaaS, services, media, most tech, yes. Async is viable and superior.
Does async culture feel different than office culture?
Yes, but not worse. It's less spontaneous. You don't have casual hallway conversations. You miss some of that serendipity, but you gain intention. Culture becomes deliberate. You're not relying on proximity to build cohesion. You're building it through communication and shared values.
How do you build relationships in async?
Intentionally. We have dedicated channels for non-work conversation. We have monthly video calls for socializing. We have quarterly in-person gatherings. It's not spontaneous, but it's real. The relationships are often deeper because they're based on knowing each other's thinking. You read someone's writing over months. You see how they think. You respect them for that thinking. The relationship is based on substance.
Is it as strong as office culture?
Different. Some people miss the spontaneity. Most people prefer the intentionality. You're not forced to be social. You can be social if you want. That's actually healthier. In an office, you can have surface relationships with people because you see them every day. In async, you either have real relationships or no relationship. There's no middle ground of workplace friends. That might sound cold, but it's actually more authentic. People are there because they want to be, not because proximity forced them together.
If a company wanted to transition to async, how would they do it?
Start with a writing practice. Make writing the default for decisions. Run a pilot where one team goes fully async for 30 days. Measure productivity and satisfaction. If it works, expand it. But don't force it. Make it optional at first. Let people opt into async versus sync meetings. This removes the resistance that comes from imposed change.
What are the biggest friction points?
Managers who equate presence with productivity. Executives who are used to controlling decisions in real time. People who are uncomfortable with writing. Those are all fixable, but they're psychological barriers. The technology is easy. The culture shift is hard.
How long does the transition take?
3 to 6 months to feel normal. A year to optimize. By year 2, you can't imagine going back. The first month is usually rough. People miss spontaneity. Decisions feel slower. People get frustrated. That's normal. Push through it. By month 2, you start seeing the benefits. By month 3, it's just how you work.
What's the worst that could happen?
You decide it doesn't work and go back to sync. No permanent damage. But I've never seen that happen. Once people experience the benefits, they don't want to go back. The biggest risk is trying to be async without addressing the cultural and operational changes needed. Just moving meetings async without changing the underlying meeting culture doesn't work.
Rapid fire?
Ready.
Best tool for async communication?
Honestly, Google Docs. Simple, collaborative, everyone knows it.
Biggest mistake companies make with async?
They try to run meetings async. That doesn't work. Real meetings need to be synchronous. You need the other 80% of communication to be async, not meetings.
How long should async feedback take?
24 hours is ideal. 48 hours acceptable. Beyond that, and momentum stalls.
Does async work for sales?
Sales needs some sync, but discovery can be async. Proposal and negotiation can be async. Close, might need a call.
Most surprising benefit of async?
How much better people think when they have time. You get better ideas because people aren't rushed.
Daisy, close us out. Where is work going? Is async the future?
I think async is the future for knowledge work. Not because it's perfect, because it's better than synchronous for most work. The companies that figure this out will have a massive advantage. Better thinking, better decisions, better retention, better global hiring. It's a structural advantage, like how having an API-first culture gave some companies advantages in the 2000s.
Do you think traditional companies will ever adopt it?
Some will. Others won't, because they're too invested in synchronous culture. But the startups and the best companies will go async, and over time, it'll be table stakes. In 10 years, not having async as an option will be seen as a competitive disadvantage, like not having remote work now.
What should founders know?
That async isn't a compromise for remote teams. It's the superior way to do knowledge work. If you build async from day one, you'll have a culture that's hard to compete with. Better people will want to work there because the pace is sane and the thinking is clear. The people who want to work at your company will be drawn by the ability to do their best work, not by foosball tables and free lunch.
And the meetings?
Ruthlessly question every meeting. Can this be async? If yes, make it async. If no, have the meeting. But most can be async. The default should be, we don't meet unless we have to. Not, we meet unless we have a good reason not to.
Daisy, thank you for showing us the hidden power of async work.
Thank you for asking about it. I'm passionate about this because I've seen how much better people's lives are when they're not trapped on someone else's calendar.
Everyone listening, your next meeting should probably be a document. Your calendar is probably half full of things that could be written communication. Challenge yourself. This week, propose 3 meetings be moved to async. See what happens. And if you're a founder, consider building async from day 1. Your team will thank you. Your customers will thank you. Your decisions will be better. That's episode 26 of Scale Up Stories. I'm Sakil. Async beats sync. Scale Up Stories is independent. No sponsors, no gatekeeping. Just founders talking about what works. If this episode changed how you think about meetings, share it with one person drowning in meeting requests. Subscribe wherever you listen. Leave a review. Links to Daisy's work in the show notes. Until next time, write more, meet less.